Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
This week's show features a country I've been to, Namibia, and a load of islands I haven't, the Cook Islands. Find out about both on the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Hello and welcome to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Later in the show I'll be speaking to Ian Griffiths, who represents the Cook Islands here in the UK. We're going to find out where they are, how they're discovered and what you can see and do when you get there. But my first guest is Leanne Gosford. She represents Namibia in their office in London. Now, Namibia is a country I've been to, but I can't say it's a country I've seen because I went there for 2 weeks to work in an animal sanctuary. So I've seen the airport, I've seen the road from the airport to the animal sanctuary, and then I went back to the airport again. So I've still got a lot to see and do when it comes to Namibia, although the 2 weeks I spent in the animal sanctuary are probably the best holiday I ever had. And if you're looking for something different to do, then a volunteering holiday could be just that. It was about 4 years ago now, but it still seemed like it was just a few months ago. Such was the enjoyment and the experiences. It wasn't all fun and games, there's a lot of hard work, but it's still a great holiday and perhaps something you should maybe consider for the next year or two. But anyway, find out a bit about Namibia now. I'm going to speak to Leanne. Of course, we can start off by finding out where it is.
Namibia is on the southwest coast of Africa, borders with Botswana, Angola and South Africa.
Okay, so it's down on the southwest, you said.
Yes, yeah.
How long does it take to get there?
It takes about 11 hours, so there's a couple of options which you can get there. Unfortunately, it doesn't fly direct from the UK, but the other alternatives are pretty straightforward. So you can go via Air Namibia, and that's via Frankfurt. Or if you choose to go via South African Airways, you can either Johannesburg or Bern or Cape Town.
Okay, which would you recommend, going via Germany or
well,
South Africa?
if you go with Air Namibia, you get there earlier on in the day.
Okay.
So you get there about 7 a.m. So it gives you, I mean, if you're wanting to get out there and go and explore straight off, because there's no time in terms you won't have any jet lag. So that's a real USP for the destination. And we'd probably recommend that one just because it just gives you longer on the ground.
Good idea.
Yeah.
You want to be there as long as possible.
There you go, yeah.
What's the climate like? Is it cold?
Hot? It's subtropical desert, so it's pretty hot. Their winter seasons sort of fall between July and August, but then it's still quite warm, sort of peaking about 25. But it does get pretty cold at night just because of the sort of desert terrain. So. Okay.
So it can be hot, but you need to wrap up a little bit.
Yes, yeah. Make sure you're prepared.
Is it a large place? Is it easy to drive around?
It's pretty large, but it's the one thing which is great about it is it's relatively easy to drive around in the sense that all the roads are tarred, and those that aren't, the ones which are still gravel, are not very bumpy, so it's pretty straightforward.
Is it kind of safe to get around as well?
Yeah, it's really safe. So, and the people are incredibly friendly. So, you're always provided with sort of a sat nav or something like that. But should you get lost or something, the local people are more than happy to sort of point you in the right direction, which is nice, unheard of in London.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I've seen some of the place names and they're going to be difficult to pronounce. Do you have any tips on how to better pronounce them?
Well, I'm still getting my head around some of them myself, but we sort of advise people just to sort of pronounce them phonetically. So if you break up the words, it seems to be quite straightforward. That's our advice, really.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm terrible at that too, but that's what I can do at a point at the map.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you know how many people from the UK visit each year?
We haven't had the figures for 2012 yet, but if it's anything like 2011, I think it was something, we're expecting an increase, but they were 21,584. Okay. So yeah, it's growing all the time though, which is something which we like to promote.
Yeah. So some people do go there.
Yes.
What is the history of the country?
So the history, particularly, I suppose, it was I think the Germans started off there, the first colonials out there, and I think that was in the 1884, around then. So they settled up, and I know it was, again, I think it was through the ivory trade, but then there's been several campaigns for independence, and then it was actually given its independence as Namibia in 1990.
Not long ago.
Yeah, but yeah, I think one of the perks is that it's sort of been all through peacetime. There's no sort of unrest in the nation, and that's definitely something we like to shout about.
As the Germans had it, as you could say, what's the official language?
English is the official language there. Yeah. There's lots of languages that are operated there. So there's English, German, as well as all the different Afrikaans languages. So it's pretty multicultural.
Okay, English is good.
Yeah.
That helped me out.
Yeah.
What does it offer as a destination? Is it just one big desert, or is there more to it?
I think that's a big common misconception, really. We like to position it as being sort of contrasting landscape. Other than the deserts, you've obviously got the Skeleton Coast, which is really popular. There's also the wetlands, which are over in the Caprivi Strip. So if you're looking for a bit of lush vegetation, you've got that bit there. And then if you're looking for your sort of desert activities, there's places for that as well. So like if you're doing any of the sand dunes and things like that, it really has a multifaceted sort of landscape. Definitely more than just a desert, I think.
What's it like for animals?
Animals, yes. Well, you can see the big five over there, and it's big for its game. So one of the real perks is that it's now let me get this right, the biggest free roaming population of black-white rhino. Okay. So I mean, that's a must on anyone's wish list. So yeah, it's really big for wildlife.
What type of accommodation is there?
There's a real mix, really. So you've got your 5-star sort of lodges, or just your lodges in general, and hotels. But if you're looking for a bit of a wilderness experience, really getting out in the open, you can do the camping experience. If you are to go down that vein and you are to go in the sort of outback areas, we would recommend that you get a tour guide, just so then you get to experience it properly.
A bit safer as well, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
What should every visitor do when they go there?
As I said, I think I've sort of touched on a couple of things with the Skeleton Coast. If you have, I'm not sure if you went there when you went over there, but the dramatic landscape, it's obviously because it's got such a rough sea, and you'll see so many sort of shipwrecks and beached whales and things like that. So it's definitely one to go and visit. We've sort of talked about the different national parks and the different wildlife opportunities, as well as the adventure aspect if you are into your sand duning and things. But other things, there is the second to the Grand Canyon, you can go and visit the Fish River Canyon. So that's pretty impressive in itself, and the water flows orange because of all the different sort of like clays and stuff, so it's pretty impressive.
Prettier than the Grand Canyon then?
Well, yeah. We'd like to say so.
You mentioned the different languages and Afrikaans and
yeah.
How many different sorts of cultures is there?
Too many to give you off the top of my head, but a couple of the cultures which there's a couple which are really big out there. The sort of Bushmen, which I spoke to you about a little bit earlier, which, as I said, we're trying to promote even further. They're the oldest sort of settlement out there, and through that we're working in conjunction with a couple of companies to host a exhibition in the UK. Which will be taking place in London in September. So they're a huge sort of culture out there. Let me just have a look. Again, just getting my head around. Then there's the Himba. They're sort of like they use the clay and things like that. So as well as the Heroa tribes out there, which unusually decide to dress in Victorian style, which to me is absolutely fantastic. So you've really got a real mixture out there, but they're probably the 3 most predominant ones.
Okay, sounds like my wardrobe's going to come back in the fashion.
There you go.
Is there a national dish to Namibia? I'm always interested in food.
Yeah, well, there isn't necessarily a national dish, but they take their sort of influences from sort of South Africa and the surrounding countries around them. So they're big into their meats, their biltong and their barbecues, as well as their seafood, especially on the coast. You get to experience some fantastic cuisine over there. That's not to say that they don't cater for vegetarians, because they do. But then if you're perhaps to go a bit north for a bit of a more authentic food, they sort of experiment more with goat and with stews, like African stews. So depends what type of thing you're after. Or if you're being extremely daring, they do actually one of their specialities is mopani worms. Not for the faint-hearted, I believe. So
no, I think I'll give those a miss. It's only 11 or so hours away and there's no jet lag, but is it easy to set your own trips up, or are you best off going for a tour?
Yeah, it is pretty easy, but sometimes with these things it might be worth looking at the relevant tour operators, particularly if you want to do like a self-drive package. They can definitely point you in the right direction. So maybe as it's your first time, we'd probably advise you going that way.
Be handy if you break down, I guess, if you've got
big
company behind you. Yeah. Do you have a recommended minimum length of stay? Is it a week, 2 weeks?
Say, 2 weeks, but we'd say probably around 10 days to 2 weeks is probably the most ideal length of time. So especially if you're wanting to do the sort of full length of it, you maybe might need a little bit longer, but ideally if you're doing a bit of a highlights tour, 10 to 14 days.
We covered the animals and the scenery. What's the city life like?
City life, so very much like any other city really. Yeah. So but in particular, so Windhoek it has quite a lot of, again, colonial influences. So you'll see sort of the Dutch, the English, the Germans, as well as the Afrikaan influences there. A couple of sort of the highlights there, they've got a really good state museum, a number of sort of castles, as well as the zoo. Their gardens there are meant to be really like sort of attractive and lovely. So they'd be our sort of top 3 recommendations over there. But
so you could do a city break and then.
Yeah, we'd probably suggest like with visiting there, you might want to just do an overnight before you maybe go on to do one of your safari programs or something like that. So so for a stopover.
Yeah, okay. Something I'm always worried about, but do you need any jabs?
No, you don't need any jabs. So
that's
nice
handy.
and easy.
That is handy. And what about a visa? Do you need
Same. No visas are required. So yeah.
Okay, great. So just pitch up and
there you
are.
go. Yeah, make sure you pack your passport.
Where would the listeners be able to find out more about Namibia?
We do have a website, which is www.namibiatourism.com.na, or we do have an app which is available via iTunes.
An app? What's the name of the app?
I don't have the name of the app here, but it's if you just follow and type in Namibia. Yeah.
Okay, great. Cool. Thank you.
This is Seklo Sounds, and you can listen to us by clicking Listen Live on our homepage at seklosounds.org for a choice of players. Via TuneIn Radio at www.tunein.com, search for Seklo Sounds and listen online, or download the TuneIn app. You can download the Seklo Sounds iPhone app from the iTunes App Store, and you can listen to us on demand at our replay page.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock. Coming up, we've got Eric and Ernie. Join me here on Seklo Sounds.
In your smile.
It's from 1975, Eric and Ernie were 4...
Gary, it's not Eric and Ernie, it's Earl and Ernie, the Cape Brothers, Union Man.
Oh, I see. Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Earl and Ernie.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seklosounds.org. Still to come in the show, there's travel news, which features some stories coming from the Advertising Standards Authority. And one of the stories is about a advert you may have seen on TV. It created an awful lot of complaints during 2014, but only came second in the top 10 most complained adverts during last year. But now the Cook Islands. I'm speaking to Ian Griffiths about them. Somewhere I haven't been. I mean, the furthest east I've ever gone is Mombasa, which isn't that far east really when you think about it. I just never seem to have gone that way. I've always travelled west, apart from when I've been to Africa, and of course it's been south. But it's somewhere I fancy. When I was a travel agent, I spent a lot of time sending people there for their holidays. So I've seen lots of brochures and lots of websites information, but I've never actually set foot on one of the islands. It's somewhere I'd recommend you go to, because the chances are you're not going to meet anybody who actually has.